Hello ladies and gents, and welcome back to the channel. I am a Techie Smith, and this video today is just going to be a rundown of the components that I used in my first PC build. I'm going to be using my notes just so I don't miss or forget anything, and I've got a link to the components in the description below as well so you can take a look at that. As I said, I'm going to be doing a build video that's going to come later, and that's going to be looking at the process that I went through when I did the rebuild of this, when I added the custom cables that I got from CableMod. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. So first up we have the CPU. In my case, I went with the i7 7700K CPU from Intel. It's a quad-core 4.2 GHz base clock CPU that can boost to 4.5 GHz, and it's also unlocked. That's what the K SKU on the end means, and that allows me to do some overclocking and get a little bit more performance out of the CPU itself. Okay, so next up is the cooling solution. Now, my chip, the i7 7700K, is a hot chip, and I was also going to be doing some overclocking, so I knew that I needed to get a good cooling solution to handle all of that. So I went with Corsair's H100i V2 AIO cooling solution. It's a 240mm radiator on this with two 120mm fans. One thing to note is this AIO comes with thermal paste pre-applied to the cooling block. When I did my rebuild of this system, I actually upgraded that to Arctic Silver 5, which is an excellent choice for a thermal paste, and it's given me great temperatures ever since. I also went ahead and upgraded the fans to high static pressure fans from Phanteks just to match the overall look of my case. So the motherboard on this is an Asus-Strix Z270E gaming motherboard. It's an excellent motherboard. It's got Wi-Fi connection as well as Ethernet. It's got 4 DIMM slots that can support up to 64 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, and it's got 2 M.2 slots for M.2 solid state drives. I'm actually only using one of them, but they're both there. I also like this motherboard because it's RGB. It has 2 RGB headers that will allow you to expand the RGB that you have in your case, and that's also capable of being controlled through Asus Aorus Sync software to get a consistent theme across all of the components that you have RGB on. For my memory, I went with a 2x8 kit of DDR4 3200 RAM from G.SKILL. It's their TridentZ RGB edition of their RAM, and it works great and it looks great in the case as well. For my storage, I wanted to have a really fast boot drive, so I went with Samsung's 960 EVGA M.2 drive, which is a 250 gigabyte drive in my case, and that holds my operating system and some of my main programs that I want to have on that boot drive. For a mass storage drive, I went with Western Digital's Black Series 1 terabyte hard disk drive. This is a hard disk drive and it is a bit old technology right now, but I kind of saved a little money because solid state drives are still really expensive, but I will probably upgrade to some solid state drives in the future. So for my graphics card, the pièce de résistance, I went with Asus's GeForce GTX 1080 graphics card. It's their ROG Strix line, and it has RGB as well, and it's just a really great all-around card, and it matches my CPU nicely. For my power supply, I went with a really great power supply from EVGA. It's their SuperNOVA G2 750 watt fully modular power supply. Now, I really recommend going the fully modular route if your budget allows, because that's going to mean that you're only using the cables that you need and you're not going to have any excess cables that you just have to tuck away somewhere. In this case, even though the cables from EVGA that came with this power supply were black and didn't look all that bad, I wanted a little something extra. So I went ahead and got a custom set of cables from CableMod, and I've linked their configurator in the description below for you if you're interested in that. For my case, I went with Phanteks' Enthoo Pro MSE case. I really love this case. It took me forever to decide on it, but I'm really glad I went with this one. It has white accents, which helps me match any color theme I want with my RGB. It ships with 2 intake fans on the front, and it's got a mesh there that allows for great airflow. Those 2 fans on the front also come with Phanteks' own Halo RGB ring that sits on top of the fan and basically makes it an RGB fan. It does not ship with an exhaust fan, so I had to pick up one of those from Phanteks, and I also went ahead and got an additional Halo to add RGB to that as well. Now, this does come with its own RGB controller, but it's very simple to disconnect that and then be using your motherboard and your onboard software to control your RGB. Well, thanks for stopping by again for this video. I just wanted to do something really quick to go through the parts that are in this build that we're going to have a video for very soon, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, toss a like. If you didn't, you can do that as well. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any future content coming up. I've got all of the components that I mentioned in this video in the description below, so be sure and check that out. Be sure to leave any questions or comments that you have in the comments section below, and I will catch you in the next video. So powering is a hard word to say.